What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a reaction to Humble Pie and their album Smokin', brought to us by friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Trucker Kev. Thank you, Trucker Kev. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen. I say it every video, but we could not do it without the patrons offering a free trial. Go check it out. All right, I know who Humble Pie is, or was, but I don't know a lot about him. But Kev knows a lot about him, so he says, after coming on strong with their debut album, Safe as Yesterday, and a fantastic live album in 1971, Rockin' the Fillmore, getting lots of notoriety, people are realizing that this is the Steve Marriott formerly of the Small Faces, an axeman by the name of Peter Frampton making a name for himself. After that fantastic concert, they would split up. So they actually had a big concert too at Shea Stadium. They would split up. Peter would want to see the other side of the coin and what it's like as a solo artist, and would begin off on his journey to a very successful solo career to this day. So he left the successful band, and it would come in his place another great man by the name of Dave Clempson. By this time, Steve was fully in control of the band, and this would have great results, but also some negative results toward the end of recording. But what would come out would be the album that would put them on the map and massive notoriety around the world, fueled by a fantastic single about drugs, booze, life on the road called 30 Days in the Hole. The Smokin' album would be like some great Humble Pie. Steve laying down great guitar work, songwriting, vocals, and a lot more. There would be some blues rockers, some hard rockers, some covers. Stephen Stills would come in after doing some Peruvian dust, LOL, aka Coke. Him and Steve would come together with the band because he was recording next door and liked what he was hearing, and they would have jam sessions. There would be a few great tunes come out of it too, and they were really awesome. You could see while Steve was recording his Manassas album, he was really showing his chops all over the place away from Crosby, Stills, and Young. Smokin' basically would launch, but was known in the early 70s as the Boogie Movement. This album would be cited to this day by many bands still claiming it's one of their biggest influences. Definitely noticeable with Chris and Rich Robinson of the Black Crowes. If you're a fan of them, you can pretty much hear a lot of the Crowes' influences in the early Humble Pie albums. There's great stories about this album recording from Humble Pie's drummer, who is still with us, the great Jerry Shirley. You can find online interviews with him. He's a very entertaining gent. I read a long interview with him. Some entertaining stuff. Kev says, I still rock this for years and years and still do, and I like it from start to finish. It's just a solid record to me. And like many, it is a 9.0 with no breakdown of favorites. So high praise coming from Kev. Just a little more on the album. Fifth studio album released in 72 by A&M. It was their international commercial breakthrough, as Kev mentioned. There was 6 in the US, 20 in the UK, and 9 in Australia. Now, Kev mentioned this Steve Marriott. There were some issues at the end a little bit with him. He insisted on producing the album himself for the challenge of creating a compact R&B sound with a high-tech 24-track mixing board. But he collapsed with exhaustion. It was reported following intense recording sessions with Humble Pie, Steve Marriott collapsed with nervous exhaustion, and doctors told him to rest. So Steve was pushing himself beyond limits, and he was doing a lot of other stuff that I'll get into eventually here. But as everybody was almost back then. All right, if you've never done this before, the music won't be in the video, but it will be at the Vimeo link below. So click on that and follow along with us. And you see it below, our first track, Hot and Nasty, written by Marriott, Redway, Clemson, Shirley. Single went to 52 in the US, 35 in Canada. This is one of them that Stills was doing backing vocals on. There's a famous session where he came in with Steve, and they ended up doing coke and everything else for about 48 hours straight, which obviously is insane, and busted out some of this stuff. So the creativeness was flowing through that. But yes, that's 48 hours of massive participation in some things you probably shouldn't be, at least for that long. All right, I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Kev. All right, just a nice jam, right? It's interesting. The first voice you hear on here is actually Stills at the start, and that little call and response. But Steve's unique vocal style there, but you know, just a jam, man. I mean, it's a good way to start an album out, right? I mean, it's the second most popular song on here, but yeah, that's the way you should start it. Next up, we got The Fixer, also written by the guys. A lot of these songs on here are not. I mean, Kev mentioned a lot of covers on here, but this one is also written by the guys. The Fixer, you know, I read that most of their songs are kind of, that they wrote themselves, developed from just jam sessions. You could tell, well, this song's just a jam session song. The lyrics are very much influenced by Robert Johnson, talking about being, he's a fixer, you better watch your woman, I'm a backdoor man. Robert Johnson talked about this back in the 30s, and a lot of the blues guys did. That means I snuck through the back door and got with your woman, your wife, your woman. And while you were gone, I snuck in. So very Led Zeppelin type of style too here, very, very just jams, bluesy there. Great guitar work. So yeah, good song. Next up, You're So Good For Me. We got Marriott and Ridley, bassist Greg Ridley's featured tune. So it ought to be pretty good. I think it'd probably be a change of pace. It's the one song on the album that include female backup singers, Doris Troy and Madeline Bell. And that's something that Steve pushed for after this album, to have more female backing as well, I read. All right, I thought that really worked vocally, right? That was just a smooth tune. Between Ridley's smoother vocals and then kind of that wailing Marriott and then the female backing, it's just a really nice song. Obviously, it doesn't have the rich arrangement of the first two songs, but, I think Steve Marriott's was a great musician, fantastic. I don't love his vocals, if I'm just being honest. They're fine, but I like it better here, where he can play off other people and there's other people involved. So I thought that, what a change up from the first two songs. Shows you these guys' talent. Next up, we got Come On, Everybody. Written by Jerry Capehart and Eddie Cochran. It's a 1958 song by Eddie Cochran. It's pretty legendary too. It's originally released as a B-side. It's one of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 500. It's ranked 403 on the Rolling Stones list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. And I mentioned it earlier, Led Zeppelin played this all the time in concert. They never recorded on an album, but like I said, well thought of. All right. The lyrics themselves, kind of funny because it's 1958. It's Eddie Cochran. It's high school. You're talking about my homework's done. My parents are gone. Let's go party. They just really make this song their own. They really make it work. Obviously, the layered guitar work is the highlight of this. I thought Steve actually sounded good. His voice really works on a song like this, but just a great jam session, man. Fantastic guitar work. So now we're going to finish off the traditional side one with Old Time Feeling. Traditional song with lyrics by Marriott. Alex Corner guests on the track. He provides the main vocals, are provided by him and Clem Clemson, who also plays Corner also plays a Martin Tipple mandolin type guitar. I also read about this song. They said it was part of a, quote, fun night that included a fist fight with the local youth gang in the street outside the studio. They'd gotten into an argument with one of our roadies and all hell broke loose. It was very strange because we were all peace-loving hippies, really. And then they went in and laid this song down. Let's go. Obviously, with Alex or Alexis Corner in here, it has a different sound to it. The mandolin, the keys are a very big part of the song. I really wanted to like this song. It just didn't really hit for me, but it's the first time I heard it. It's not horrible or anything. And I do like the diversity on side one, right? We have all kinds of different stuff, from You're So Good For Me to Old Time Feeling to, the first two tracks, The Fixer and Hot and Nasty, and then Come On Everybody, the more jammy 1958 song. So let's head over to side two with 30 Days in the Hole, written by Steve. Received minor airplay at the time, but failed to chart. However, it's gained a following on album-oriented rock, or AOR, and classic rock formats, and consequently remains one of Humble Pie's best-known songs. Pie guitarist Clem Clemson has said it's one of the tracks he would like his career to be remembered by. That is high praise. 30 Days in the Hole, I can see why this has become a staple, but as I mentioned, remember, this was not a huge hit whenever this album came out, but it's one of the songs they're most well-known for. It's funny, too, because, they're celebrating being in jail, right? 30 days in the hole, they're in jail. And it's all about drug use. That's all the stuff, right? They're arrested for possession of small amounts of cocaine, Durban poison, which is a potent strain of marijuana, red Lebanese and black Nepalese, two types of hashish. Newcastle Brown is heroin, also known as brown or smack. So Steve's playing the guitar, the harmonica, the electric piano, obviously on vocals. He's doing yeoman's work there, but definitely the highlight of the album so far. Fantastic. Next up, we have Roadrunner / Roadrunner G Jam. You see it listed different on Spotify, but that's really what it is. It's from the great Holland Dozier Holland songwriting team in Humble Pie, because they layered another song on top of it. It was a hit song by Junior Walker and the All-Stars, who I've never heard of. It was released on the Motown label in 1966, reached number 20 in the US, 12 in the UK. The group fused Junior Walker and the All-Stars' I'm a Roadrunner with an in-studio improvisation called Roadrunner's G-Jam, and that's kind of how you have this thing. All right, man, just a nice jam song there, right? The keys are going in heavy. Steve sounds good on this one. It's a jam, just like it says, right? It's a jam session, and so if you're a big fan of this type of music, and Humble Pie, I can see how this is lauded by a lot of fans as one of their favorites, because it kind of showcases a lot of the things it seems that they do best. And I'm going to assume we're really going to jam on this one on our penultimate track, I Wonder. Written by Cecil Gant and Raymond Levin. It's a 1944 song written and originally performed by Private Cecil Gant. Lots of people have covered it. Aretha, all kinds of people have covered this song. So you probably know a version of it. I don't know that I do. Let's get it. All right, I Wonder, just fantastic musicianship, guitar work. The blues song, Wonders Where She's At. For me, I mean, this is just not my style of music, but I mean, it's a wonderful representation of it. It just gets long and monotonous for me. But, it's fantastically done. It's just a matter of taste. It's fantastically done. Now we'll go to the last track on the album, Sweet Peace and Time. Going back to this was written by all four guys. So we kind of started that way with the first two songs, and we're going to end it off that way. All right, Sweet Peace and Time. A really good way to finish the album out. Nice jam session again. I thought Steve's vocals sounded really good here. Now let's move on to my favorite tracks. Honorable mentions, I'm going to go with this last song, Sweet Peace and Time. I'm going to go with Come On Everybody, the Eddie Cochran cover. And I'm also going to go with Hot Nasty, the first song. I told you the first couple songs, I didn't totally love Steve's vocals on his own. I think more what it was, Hot and Nasty, especially the opening track, the mixing on it is horrible. It's a good song, but the mixing on it's horrible. It needs to be remastered. If you're listening to something in a different version of it, as I know Kev is, and you got the album, you're spinning the CD, it probably sounds better than through the Spotify sound, but it was the mixing of the song, not the song itself or Steve's lyrics. But faves, You're Not So Good For Me, kind of probably a surprise fave for some of you. And then of course, 30 Days in the Hole. Now I'll get to my overall grade. Kev gives it a 9 out of 10. I always say this. Any patron that brings something, they've spun it hundreds of times, probably, or a ton of times. This is my first time spinning it. And I kind of shared with you a little bit after one of the tracks. This is really not my kind of music, but my job when I sit here is to be objective, not subjective. It doesn't matter if it's my type of music or not. How good is this music? And this music's very good. So I'm going to give this an 8.0 out of 10. I like the diversity. I like how they didn't get boxed into just a certain style. They let some different stuff flow. They let some different people take lead vocals. That shows you that Steve was willing to do that. A lot of frontmen would not do that, especially after what just happened with Frampton. So much kudos there. So I give it an 8.0. Let me know what you think of this down below. Tell me your favorite tracks. Thanks again to Kev. And until next time, guys, I will see you.